Hey Wookiees, Rebels, and more, welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to be going over my edit of the Rise of Skywalker opening crawl. Before we get into any of the edits or anything, I wanted to make sure I pointed out an error in my last video. When I added Commander Fox, he was surrounded by shock troopers, and somehow I accidentally changed the gauntlets from what they should be, the white with little red stripes, to full-on red. Right here, it's corrected, so I'll probably post that as a version 2 sometime soon, so be expecting that. But yeah, with that out of the way, let's get into today's video. So I could just tell you my opening crawl and explain my reasoning, but I also want to examine the original opening crawl and why I can't just stick with it. Why I feel the need to rewrite the entire thing. So going through this edit, we're going to go paragraph by paragraph. I'm going to read the original opening crawl, my reasons for why I don't like it or why it can't stay, and then reveal my opening crawl and what I am hoping people will get out of it. So let's go ahead and get started by going into episode 9's opening crawl and look at the first paragraph of the original cut. The dead speak. The galaxy has heard a mysterious broadcast, a threat of revenge in the sinister voice of the late Emperor. This is one of the worst ways we can reintroduce Palpatine into the Star Wars galaxy. Like, we thought he died in Return of the Jedi, and then all of a sudden he's going to come back in the opening crawl of episode 9. I really don't like that this reveal is put in the first couple of lines of the opening crawl, and I don't think I'm alone either. I think a lot of people disliked that a message to the galaxy was revealed in the opening crawl, and we don't even get to hear it in the movie. It was revealed in a Fortnite event, which is just so disappointing. The opening crawl has always been there to provide context, never to reveal major information that should have been set up in the previous movies. Which, side note, I do want it to be known that in my episode 7 and 8 re-edits, I do plan on hinting at Palpatine's return, so it has a satisfying build-up and payoff, unlike the sequel trilogy as we see it right now, along with foreshadowing for Rey's lineage too. Here's my first paragraph into episode 9. After Luke Skywalker's heroic stand, hope began returning to the galaxy, and the First Order is expanding more resources trying to maintain dominion against the re-established New Republic. So in this version, we are going to allow Palpatine's return to be revealed in the movie. And instead, I'm going to use this opportunity to set up the state of the galaxy, which is severely lacking in all of the sequel films. And I'm going to start it off with Luke's impact in the previous movie. I mean, episode 7 was all about trying to find Luke Skywalker. Episode 8 was all about trying to convince Luke Skywalker to join the fight. And once he does, we need to know what that impact had on the galaxy. Right now, episode 7 leads into episode 8, but episode 8 doesn't really lead into episode 9. This way, the overarching find Luke and bring him to fight has a setup and a payoff right from the start. I also feel like having the New Republic winning the war really helps the sequel trilogy as a whole. I think the war being a reset of the galaxy where the New Republic is wiped out in like a couple of hours and now it's Rebels versus the Empire again is just not a good idea for the overarching Star Wars story. I really wanted to see the sequel trilogy to show me a New Republic that has the resources of a large government. And in its current state, it's incredibly disappointing how we watch Han, Luke, and Leia, and all of the rebellion for that matter, try and fight for this government that gets wiped out in a couple of hours and doesn't come back at all. I think it's way more satisfying to see that the New Republic could get hit by a cataclysmic event and they would still be able to bounce back because they are a strong government. I say that knowing that it's always had its weaknesses, especially around when it first started, but by this point it should have enough allies to support itself. Moving back to the original edit, we're going to look at the middle paragraph. General Leia Organa dispatches secret agents to gather intelligence, while Rey, the last hope of the Jedi, trains for battle against the diabolical First Order. Now, I don't necessarily have too many bad things to say about this paragraph. It's very much Leia sent some people and Rey's training. I do, however, want to contend that I don't think Rey is the last hope for the Jedi. I think in my edits, what I want to do is I want to have more Jedi out there. You know, I don't want a second Jedi purge. Or have Luke's Jedi temple that he built just be like destroyed. Now, I know this would contradict some things in episode 8, but whenever I figure out how to solve that, I will make a video about it and I will share it with you guys. But in a way that doesn't make Rey the last hope of the Jedi. When she says she is all the Jedi in this film, it'll be metaphorical, it will not be literal. She will not have all of the lineage of the Jedi relying on her, but it will be up to her to restore the Jedi Order in her movie coming up, if that happens. I honestly don't know. I've been burned too many times. So my version of the middle paragraph will go like this. General Leia Organa deploys a strike team to seize a crucial location harboring vital intelligence for the war effort, while Rey, Skywalker's apprentice, trains for battle. You can probably see that right away that I kept a lot of the structure. You know, it starts off with what Leia's doing and then what Rey's doing. But here I wanted to I wanted to change up some language to where Leia is sending out a strike team just to kind of validate that she has the resources to send an entire strike team versus in the original episode 9, it's just Poe, Finn, Claude, of course. And then along with the Falcon team, we would get a squadron of X-Wings, A-Wings, and maybe some new ships. Definitely some kind of capital ship that would be able to take over the floating glacier that's being mined where we meet the Win the War guy. And then, of course, Rey, we're just removing that she is the last hope for the Jedi. But I also wanted to reaffirm how she feels and how we should look at her as Luke Skywalker's apprentice. And she sees him as her master. I like that it also kind of hints at Leia being her master because it's Skywalker's apprentice and Leia Organa is a Skywalker. So it also is a small nod to that coming up. In the original version of episode 9, this is how the last paragraph goes. Meanwhile, Supreme Leader Kylo Ren rages in search of the Phantom Emperor, determined to destroy any threat to his power. Right away, we have to cut the lines of mentioning the Emperor just because we're saving that reveal. It will not be in the opening crawl. We are going to hint at it, but it will not be in the opening crawl at all. The second part of this paragraph is fine, but it won't work for my re-edit because the Kylo Ren setup that I'm doing is a little different, whereas in the original, he's very determined, he's very much in power. Because the New Republic is winning, we're going to set up a Kylo Ren that's more desperate. Which, speaking of which, let's just get into my final paragraph for this re-edit. As Supreme Leader Kylo Ren becomes desperate to find a solution to the Resistance advancements, he turns to one of Snoke's old artifacts that leads to the Sith homeworld. So there's a lot of things I want to break down with this last paragraph, but I want to start off with Kylo Ren and explaining why I need him to be desperate in this edit instead of the confidence that he had in the original episode 9. Now, don't get me wrong, he'll be confident in himself as a person, but not as a leader of the First Order. One of the reasons I want to do this is so that I can set him up to be a redeemable villain. I've seen a lot of re-edits and a lot of people will go in the direction of not redeeming Ben Solo and just keeping Kylo Ren, and then Kylo Ren dies off as a villain, which I could see that being an interesting take, but personally, I think it's more interesting and more rewarding as an audience member when Ben Solo is redeemed, when we get to see him flip around at the end and we get to see Ben Solo. In this edit, I'm not going to have him die off. We're gonna keep Ben Solo alive, and I don't know what the future holds for him in the continuity. I at least want to play with the idea to allow people's imaginations to kind of think of what could have been. It would make a lot of sense with this character, as Snoke always had an eye on the bigger picture, but Kylo Ren would very much bicker with, like, say, Hux and other officers that were in his way. There is a character precedent for him not being able to command officers in a way that would successfully win or push the war in his favor. So we set up his desperation and what it means, but what is he going to do about it? So we have Kylo Ren search out one of Snoke's old artifacts. I don't really know what this artifact is right now. I think it could easily be an item off screen. It could be a map. This artifact is staying vague on purpose. Ultimately, it doesn't really matter because what the artifact points to is more important. The Sith home world. Now, I think the artifact points to the Wayfinder, right? So whatever this artifact is of Snoke's, it's going to point Kylo Ren to the Wayfinder, lead him to Vader's castle, which I have a render by that. I'm gonna be adding a new shot for that. I teased it in a community post, but I wanna make sure everyone can see it. This is a render I'm working on where we're gonna see just more of Mustafar. I think it was a tragedy that we only got close-ups of the planet, and I, as a longtime fan, couldn't recognize it. But that's a video for another time. So then, Kylo Ren would get the Wayfinder, and then he would go to the Sith homeworld. So here we don't reveal Palpatine is returning, but we definitely hint at Palpatine's return. By now, it should be set up that when we find Palpatine in the homeworld, it has a better payoff. I mean, anything's better than the original at this point, because of course there was no setup in episode 7 or 8. So I will leave y'all with the opening crawl that I have. I'm going to change the music though, just for copyright reasons. But I want to thank every single one of you guys for supporting me and joining this channel. I would love to get y'all's thoughts of my version of the opening crawl in the comments below. Let me know if the original left a terrible taste in your mouth like it did me. Let me know what you guys would change about the opening crawl. I edit these things kind of all the time, so while this edit is in a place that I really, really like, nothing is set in stone. So if y'all want, please throw me your ideas. I would love to see what you guys think and to get your input on what you would change about my opening crawl, what you would change about the original opening crawl, and if you are excited or if you like the direction that my version of episode 9 starts off in. And with all of that out of the way, I guess I'll see y'all in the next one.